Are you wanting to get into Jane Austen, trying to read it, but you need a little bit of help trying to understand it? You could join a private book club with Frances. You set the timeline, you set the agenda. Through video calls, emails, chat with Frances, learn more about the story. And she's going to help you understand Austen. And you know what? That would make the world a better place.
Kia ora, welcome to the Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite and life coach. My co-host is Emma Dunning.
Flawed.
Who is apparently flawed today. We're discussing chapter 21 of Sense and Sensibility. In chapter 21, the Palmers leave in the very first sentence and are replaced by the Mrs. Steele, who ingratiate themselves at the park, and Sir John attempts to force a friendship between them and the Dashwoods. Edward is mentioned by Miss Steele somewhat mysteriously.
My first comment is nothing to do with the main gist of the chapter. Eleanor is wondering about Charlotte Palmer being so happy without a cause. And Eleanor finds that strange because most of the world needs something to make them happy, but Charlotte is one of the more rare people who simply is a happy and optimistic person, and subsequent science has proven these people do exist. We are not those people, Frances and I, but they do exist, and the interesting thing about them is that the rest of us tend to read them as being less intelligent.
Because what I'd heard prior to this was that the research shows that people are scanning for negativity. They're scanning for things to be concerned about. And Charlotte, it seems, is just naturally happy, possibly even scanning for things to be happy about. And we're like, oh, you're going to get into some trouble for that.
Yeah, it's necessary for the survival of the human race for most of us to be scanning for danger. But there is a proportion of the human race who are just happy, and Charlotte Palmer is one of them. Probably means she ovulates every month and has lots of babies.
Well, she's pregnant at this point.
There you go.
So there's that. I think it would be a bit draining to be around someone who was always so happy. If you weren't happy, you'd probably want to slap them.
I think it would be draining to be around someone who talks so much with so little to say. It would actually probably be really delightful to be around someone who is happy all the time.
That's a really good distinction, thank you. I wonder whether Charlotte doesn't notice the negative things, doesn't let them affect her, or ignores them.
Well, the closest negative thing to her is her husband.
And she's delighted by him.
Yes.
And she recognises that he's like, he never listens to me. He doesn't hear. He's always grumpy. I like him. I wonder if she gets joy from provoking him into grumpiness by her happiness.
Or maybe she sees what we will later see, that he has a good heart and he is reliable.
Being a good heart and reliable is probably more important than temperament in the long term, but in the short term I imagine that would be quite hard to live with. Someone who's always grumpy, even if they have a good heart.
Absolutely it is. It's so curious with these two. Why did he marry her? I mean, presumably he was less grumpy when they were courting.
She's hot. You need to remember that about Charlotte.
Yeah.
She's hot. And Eleanor herself is wondering about the strange unsuitableness existing between husband and wife, which often existed. So it sounds like this is something she's seen before. I mean, we see it with Charlotte's sister's relationship. The Middletons in some ways are a good match. They both have the rank and the money that they want, and they both need lots of people around them. But the way that they do that is a bit unsuitable between each other.
I think it's enough, though, for the Middletons.
But then you see Fanny and John Dashwood, and they seem to be good, happy. I'm not sure we have any other unsuitable partners in this particular novel that Eleanor could be drawing from that we know of?
Well, not that Eleanor knows about yet, but she's going to. So, off to Exeter they go, and Mrs. Jennings has the satisfaction of discovering two young ladies to be her relations.
Which you gotta wonder that they just ran into each other, or is this a scheme by Lucy? I mean, that's quite a great scheme, but we know that Lucy's a good schemer.
How could they possibly?
I don't know, but Lucy's a fantastic schemer, so Mrs. Jennings is so delighted to have met third cousins, which means they are her cousins'?
It'd be something like having one great-grandparent in common.
Which is saying something about where the Jennings have come from. We know that Mrs. Jennings has a lot of money. Her husband was in trade. It's a concern for her daughter, Lady Middleton, when Mrs. Jennings and Sir John return from Exeter. Hey, we're having visitors. Two girls you've never met that are my third cousins are coming to stay with you. She's not sure of the elegance and gentility, even though Mrs. Jennings and Sir John are like, but they're family, so it's fine.
Yes, there are some black sheep in this family. The dark side, the trade side.
But their appearance, when they arrive, is by no means ungenteel or unfashionable. So Lady Middleton's okay with it. And then they are so good at playing the game that the Miss Steeles are in raptures with the furniture and dotingly fond of the children, that within the first hour she's like, they're great. I love these girls.
I just love this writing, that phrase, in raptures with the furniture. The juxtaposition of raptures and furniture. So furniture, commonplace, everyday. Raptures, completely overblown. It's like a spiritual enlightenment about your furniture. Also in raptures about the children. It's beautiful.
There's something similar said about her gowns.
They have unceasing delight at one of Lady Middleton's new dresses, so they have to take a pattern from it.
Elegant new dress, note. Not just any new dress, it must be elegant. But they're playing the game really, really well with her. We know Lady Middleton isn't necessarily the smartest from what we're told of her, but because she's a mother who loves her kids, she's quite happy to swallow anything without the smallest surprise or distrust.
This is such a great phrase. I feel like it could be on a mug. A fond mother in pursuit of praise for her children is the most rapacious of human beings, is likewise the most credulous. Her demands are exorbitant, but she will swallow anything. I feel like Jane Austen has been exposed to so many of these mothers in her life. She's been a childless woman, and she's been surrounded by these women seeking praise for their children. You can see people doing this. They seek praise for their own child, and other people are prepared to give it as long as they get it back for their own children. And if you don't have children of your own, you end up in this one-sided conversation where you have to give all this praise for someone else's children, but you never get the return.
For single women, there are a lot of issues around things like this. When people get married and people have babies, these are giant celebrations that everybody wants to be involved in. The single females around support those things, but there's not a way for them to get that in return.
Absolutely. I've always thought that everyone should get their Le Creuset casserole dishes. It's like you're just an endless supply of wedding presents for other people, and you never get your kitchen supplied if you don't get married.
Sir John is so excited about the Steele sisters. He's referring to them as the sweetest girls in the world, but Eleanor is well aware that this description can cover many women throughout England under every possible variation of form, face, temper, and understanding. But Sir John is insistent. Pray come, you must come, I declare you shall come. And it reminded me of Emma when she's telling Harriet to visit Hartfield. The layers on top of each other. She invited her, encouraged her, and then just told her. Same sort of.
It's a steamroller. And he's come within an hour of the Miss Steeles arriving at Barton Park. He's come down to Barton Cottage to say, come up and look at them.
He cannot keep even a third cousin to himself. This must be really difficult for the people involved because Sir John is using so much hyperbole in describing the people to each other. He's telling the Miss Steeles how wonderful the Miss Dashwoods are. He's telling the Miss Dashwoods how wonderful the Miss Steeles are. And then just throwing them together and expects that they'll be friends. There is a description of the two Miss Steeles. The eldest, Miss Steele, is nearly 30, plain, and not a sensible face. Nothing to admire. Not great. Plain, looks a bit stupid.
Austen's using sensible to mean thoughtful, like not a good thinker here, not a good feeler. Like we talked earlier about the meanings of the word sensible, and she's using this to mean that Anne is silly. But also, how can you tell from someone's face whether they are silly or thoughtful? Do you think someone's expression can be kind of vacant?
Yes.
We're about to discover from what she says
that she is. That you're not saying that the Dashwood girls are being snobs this time, that you're like, no, we've got enough description of the Miss Steeles to know why they don't want to hang out with them.
Well, I might accuse them of being snobs again later.
The second Miss Steele, who we'll come to know as Lucy, is 2 or 3 and 20, with considerable beauty. Her features are pretty. She had a smartness of air, and though it didn't actually give her elegance or grace, it gave a distinction to her person. But the one thing that stands out that is more of a character description than a physical description is she had a sharp, quick eye. And that's a big difference between her and the elder sister. And this is Austen bringing in some of the judgments of the Dashwood sisters, or Eleanor probably, what their reading of the Miss Steeles as they meet them, not just this is what they look like, but getting a sense of who they are.
Whatever it is that makes Anne's face not sensible, the opposite is true of Lucy. A sharp, quick eye is presumably observant. Her eyes are presumably moving around the room and noticing things.
Perhaps this is something that she's cultivated because her elder sister, not so great at this sort of thing, and then she helps steer conversations and her sister's actions. Miss Steele randomly mentions Edward. It notes that Lucy generally made an amendment to all her sister's assertions. So she's modifying everything that her sister says. She's more quick, she's more with it.
And she's more aware of the social implications of her sister's vulgar outbursts and the consequences that could have in this higher level company. She's not the only sister who modifies her sister's statements, because Eleanor quite commonly, and will do shortly, modifies Marianne's statements to make them more socially acceptable too.
That's a very good point.
Shortly after we discover that Anne has not a sensible face, the word sense appears again. So Eleanor soon allowed the Steele sisters credit for some kind of sense. When she saw what constant and judicious attention, Eleanor acknowledges that it is sensible for them to be sucking up to Lady Middleton. So at this point, she's not saying it's a bad thing that they're sucking up to Lady Middleton. She sees it, but she's not judging them for it on this first meeting.
So maybe she's not such a snob?
Just wait, she'll judge them for it later.
The children of the Middletons, as we know, are kind of little shits, but most children are, right? Waiting for Emma to contradict me? No? Right. One of the girls has a tantrum because she's scratched by her mother's headdress. It's referred to as agonies, which you pointed out was excessive language for this situation. And everybody is fawning over her. The two Miss Steeles are both now next to her. Her mother's holding her, and they're trying to do everything they possibly can to make her feel better. And of course, the child, Anna Maria, is too wise to stop crying, realizing that she's getting all this attention. And they're teaching her to continue to do that by their behaviour, and by going, oh, last week when she had a bruise, we gave her apricot marmalade and that fixed it. That doesn't fix a bruise. It calms the child, but doesn't actually... The way it's written is it was successfully applied for a bruised temple, like it's a treatment.
It actually made me wonder whether they put the apricot marmalade on her skin. But it becomes clear that they actually fed it to her.
It's Austen's way of joking about how people are about their kids. As she has this whole chapter, that Lady Middleton will just be taken in if you're nice about her kids. Little Anna Maria is taken off by Lady Middleton, and the conversation that happens when she leaves says a lot. Marianne thinks this is a way of heightening alarm when there's nothing to be alarmed at, and then stops contributing to the conversation because it's impossible for her to say what she did not feel. Accurate.
Marianne can't make small talk. She can't make the mouth noises that smooth social interactions.
So it falls to Eleanor. It always does. The whole task of telling lies when politeness requires it. If Marianne worded things a little bit differently, she could get away with a lot more. Eleanor's willing to make a few white lies here and there to be able to smooth things over, but Marianne is so against any kind of lies. Everything must be complete honesty.
Well, that's that black and white thinking that is very common when you're 17. It's a bit short-sighted on Marianne's part, because we're to believe she's so beautiful, she could probably have married extremely well if her manners had been better.
You reckon?
Mm.
I think Eleanor's bothered that the Miss Steeles continue going on about how great the kids are and how great the Middletons are when they're not there. It's not necessary at this point, but they're still continuing to do it, and Eleanor is being simple in her praise, not overdoing it like they are. And Lucy calls her out. You think the little Middletons rather too much indulged. And I wonder whether she's trying to get Eleanor to bitch about them here, because of course then that could be repeated. Eleanor's response is so diplomatic and one of the best lines in Austen. While she's there with the Middleton children, she never thinks of tame and quiet children with any abhorrence.
That is a very diplomatic answer. She yearns for tame and quiet children when she's surrounded by the Middleton children.
Don't we all?
No, we don't all.
You want loud, noisy?
I want children to be themselves.
Yeah, that's true. There's this awful thing that we think children are misbehaving when they're being loud and running round, and that's just who they are, but it's inconvenient for us, so we label it as misbehaving.
Yeah, I feel like the situation is important. If you've got adult visitors in your parlour, 5 adults at least, and I don't know how big this room is, but you've got 3 children in a room with 5 adults, and the children have a lot of energy, I feel like maybe they just need to be in different places.
Because the kids are abusing the adults, untying their sashes, pulling their hair, going through their bags, stealing their knives and scissors. Children should not have those. But Lady Middleton thinks that everybody's enjoying that. What a great game.
She's not being a marvellous host.
Lady Middleton is so confusing because she doesn't seem like the sort of person who would enjoy noisy kids.
I'm sure she doesn't enjoy other people's noisy kids.
Is that the thing that people say when you're around noisy kids and you're like, this is horrific, and they're like, it's different when it's your own, to try and convince you to have children?
No, it's the thing where you think your own children can do no wrong but other people's are repellent. You can tolerate more things from your own children than other people's children. Changing nappies is an excellent example.
Miss Steele, we are learning very quickly, doesn't have a filter and is acting really over-familiar and asking about bows all the time. Did you have many smart bow? Do you have many hair? Was your brother a beau before he married? Eleanor's like, what the hell is a beau? My brother's the same, he's always been. I don't know what you're talking about. This specimen of the Mrs. Steele was enough. They refer to this conversation as vulgar freedom and folly of the eldest Miss Steele. They're not blinded by Lucy, by her beauty and her shrewd look. The word used is artlessness, but I think they're talking about that she's scheming. That might be the sort of word that we might use. They can see that she's calculated in the way that she does things. Eleanor, after this first meeting, is like, I'm good, I don't need to see them again. Knowing that she probably will, because they're staying and Sir John is Sir John.
I found that really interesting, Sir John's idea of how friendships are made.
Sitting an hour or two together in the same room almost every day. That's all that's needed to be intimate. I think that it takes more than proximity. It shows a little of Sir John's lack of knowledge of people. But also we learn in a few chapters how loud and busy things are at the Middletons, that there's not actually an opportunity for you to build closer relationships because they're playing noisy games. You're not actually able to sit and talk to anybody.
If Sir John and Lady Middleton just sat in a room together for a few hours on a few days and that was enough for them to get engaged, proximity and being of the right age and class, if that makes a relationship, maybe that's his only requirement.
Yeah, that logic makes sense. What do you think makes a friendship?
Shared interests, a willingness to listen to the other person's point of view, a willingness to share and listen. So Eleanor is obviously not wanting to share anything with Lucy. Lucy is superficially probably quite chatty, but not wanting to share her true self with Eleanor.
But Eleanor can see a little bit beneath the surface, and Lucy does quite quickly try to form an intimacy with her. Well, what appears to be an intimacy, because it's still quite surface level for her own ends.
Yeah, as they get to know each other, it'll be more clear why they don't become friends. But the things that Eleanor values about reading, art, conversation, virtue are not the things that Lucy values. So maybe shared values is important for a friendship?
I agree. I think that, as you say, being able to talk about differing views, but I think there needs to be at least some shared value as well.
You can have friends that are more different from you values-wise than partners. Like, politically, it's quite rare to have a romantic relationship where political views are opposite. You're more likely to have a friendship where your political views are different.
My parents are on opposite ends of the voting spectrum.
I think there's more variation in values among friendships than there are among romantic relationships. Maybe you can't make that generalisation.
I think it actually depends on whether you just have your spouse as the person you host dinners with, like the Middletons, or whether you want someone to be more partner.
Well, I think we'd probably say in the 19th century, in this class, marriages weren't about what we expect them to be about now.
Now we place far too much on an intimate partner. We expect them to be multiple people in one, as opposed to having a larger support system.
Well, that's what Marianne is expecting of a husband, to be what your modern woman is expecting from her husband, I think.
Yeah.
She's expecting the centre of her universe, like any romantic young lady today.
And that way leads to devastation, as we shall find out.
But Lucy's not expecting that.
No.
Lucy's expecting money and nice frocks.
As much as Eleanor doesn't want to be friends with the Miss Steeles, Sir John is just determined it's going to happen, and I reckon this might be the first time that Eleanor's a little bit on Marianne's side of the argument when it comes to the Middletons. This is a bit much. He thinks he's doing a good thing, promoting their unreserve by telling them each other's secrets.
Must have been absolutely excruciating. What's been going on over dinner parties, over the dinner table. Sir John kind of hearty teasing of Eleanor, who must be sitting there stiff as a board with a fake smile on her face. Ha 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 ha. How I love you teasing me with all these nods and winks and teasing me about the letter F. It just must have felt excruciating.
And she especially said she did not want them joking about him. That's too close for her. But the Miss Steeles also know all about Willoughby, so they want to know more about him. And Miss Steele says they'd met Edward at the uncle's house. I know him. And this is the bit where Lucy jumps in to amend what Anne is saying. We've met him once or twice. It's rather too much to pretend to know him very well. Lucy, we know, is backpedaling because of what the secrets they're holding. And Eleanor, for the first time, is like, why are people not asking more questions? Because she's like, who is this uncle? Where does he live? How did they come to get acquainted? And the way that Miss Steele says that she knows Edward sounds to Eleanor like she knows something to his disadvantage. And Anne does know about the engagement. Anne is the only person that Lucy has told.
She's absolutely useless at keeping secrets. I changed my mind partway through.
Okay.
She's not absolutely useless, but the key to keeping a secret is not to, by any indication, suggest that there is a secret. The minute it appears there is a secret, it will always come out. You have to forget that there is a secret.
It must be really stressful for Lucy to have this elder sister who's a bit stupid because she's constantly under stress of her secret being revealed. because Miss Steele says things without thinking.
I wonder how much Lucy doesn't want her secret revealed. I guess she just wants to control the timing of it, because she knows that Mrs. Ferrers has to be carefully handled.
If she's not the one to reveal it to Eleanor, it won't have the same weight.
Oh, I mean generally, not specifically to
that
Eleanor.
But in this particular situation, she needs to be the one to reveal it to Eleanor so she can show her the evidence, and she can watch Eleanor very closely because she suspects that something's been going on with Eleanor and Edward. Even though she knows that Edward would never. We assume she knows that Edward would never actually, but because she's not a faithful person, maybe she thinks that he's not either.
I think she doesn't know. I think she is fearful of losing him.
Sadly, not because she loves him, but because that's her meal ticket. Though can we blame her, a woman in her position, just trying to do what she can for herself?
No, we cannot blame her. Don't like the way she goes about it, but...
No.
There was one other brilliant phrase. When Sir John's gone off to Exeter with his mother and come back and told his wife, oh, and we're having 2 guests that you've never met before. And Lady Middleton doesn't like it because they might be vulgar, but she resigns herself to the idea of it and contents herself with merely giving her husband a gentle reprimand on the subject 5 or 6 times every day, which I thought was a beautiful little snapshot of married life, and it illustrates Lady Middleton's character perfectly.
That's our discussion of Chapter 21 of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I've been Frances Duncan, and this has been Emma Dunning. Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading.